Several angry trailer drivers yesterday blockaded the ever-busy Owerri-Port Harcourt Road over alleged harassment, intimidation and seizure of their trucks by alleged uninformed security personnel and government actors. The action of the drivers not only created a chaotic atmosphere but also disrupted the free flow of traffic in Owerri area. Now, explaining the remote cause of their action, one of the truck drivers said, "We started this action on Tuesday night and continued till yesterday. Some men in uniform demanded money from one of us, and his inability or unwillingness to cooperate with them led to his being brutally manhandled. His truck was also destroyed partially." This report was eventually transmitted to other members of the Trailer Drivers Association. What is playing out now in Owerri stemmed from the ugly brutalization of a truck driver. And in his words, "We are determined to remain where we are now until our demands are met." Reacting to the incident in a statement, IMO STATE Governor Special Advisor on Public Communication, that's FCC, that's Jones, linked it to alleged overzealousness by some individuals purporting to work for officials of IMO State government and putting themselves forward as surrogates of any sort. And he said, while it is important to encourage motorists to abide by extant traffic codes and also use designated parks for their operations, it is also important to inform every IMOlite that the governor has not empowered anyone to harass commercial motorists in this guise of enforcing traffic rules. I'd like to get your thoughts on this particular story, Ambassador.
Well, it's quite unfortunate that most times people who are given responsibilities in government, instead of making it to advance, a peaceful and healthy environment, instigate it or use it, abuse it, let me use that word. And I'm glad that the governor and the government of Imo State have openly denied such reckless actions. And I think it's a responsive action of a government, And I equally want to commend the truck drivers, even though what they have done is also illegal. It's illegal. It's just that their own, they did not notify the IGP that they want to protest. Hence, maybe they would have gone to courts to restrict them where they will stay or not. When you stop the right of another man's activities, it's an illegal action. So what the truck drivers are actually doing is actually illegal. It's not right. We must condemn it. No matter how beautiful what they have done is right in their eyes. Where your own right ends, that's where the next man's right begins. Now, you can't, two wrongs can't make a right. You can't stop wrongdoing with wrongdoings. So what the supposedly alleged Imo State officials have done is wrong. The government have condemned it, and I equally want to, I don't know whether they are still there right now. Their action is already causing hardship and pains to other Imolites and other Nigerians because it's a federal road. Not just Imo people are passing that road. I wish they have gone to government house and block it. That would have been a better one to say.
Would it have been legal?
It's still illegal, but what I'm trying to say is that it would have only affected the government of Imo State. Or maybe you go and block their state secretariat. But when you block a federal road by an action of a particular state's government official, it's a federal road. So it becomes a national issue. But of course, the action is condemnable. I also like to call on any person who is into such kind of nefarious activities. Like the representative of the governor have said, that there should be decorum, their operations should be conducted in a more professional ways.
Yes.
If you think the person has contravened the law, there are approaches to such. You mustn't cause mayhem, you must handle such person simply because you are carrying security operatives with you people. It's not good. Because if I watch the task forces across board. Most time because they have presence of policemen and then some good number of, I don't want to call them thugs or whatsoever, members of that team, that they feel that they can, you know, climb on any motorist at any time and they can overpower you. So such is not a very a civilized way of doing things. We have outgrown such. If we, I don't even know. I don't want to say we have outgrown because I don't know where we have grown up to first of all. So, but I would have said that hence we are living in a civilized world right now. Such kind of primitive activities should be dropped. There are civil ways of handling civil activities. If you think I have disobeyed the law, you can, you know, invoke the weight of the law. There are procedures for all of these things, but not to do. We are yet to see they vandalize the truck and the people who they said were manhandled. But I want to think that they may not be just framing up story, because stories that will make how many trucks to stop their operations, their activities, and block the road is certainly real, because they are not mad people. So I would like to say that, well, you have expressed your grievances. Let the government of IMO State and the agencies responsible quickly investigate on the matter, intervene so that the road will be cleared.
All right. Let's get to hear your thoughts on this, Mufasa.
Well, I quite agree with Ambassador. There's a popular saying that if abomination is allowed to stay in a community, it becomes a norm, and you could understand what that's, you know, the implication of that in the society. Now, I'm aware that you know, this is not a new thing, especially if you want to look at the number of people parading themselves as task force, you know, with uniforms and all of that, and it's really
what is not a new thing now?
Now, what I mean, no, on the part of this so-called task force.
Okay.
Okay. Now, if you want to travel from Port Harcourt to, let's say, Delta State, for instance, before now, what we used to see on the roads, maybe one or two police checkpoints. You see the police barricade the roads with their drums or sacks and all of that. But now, you see more of these task force members blocking the federal highway with sticks and all manner of, you know, dangerous, weapons. And sometimes you ask yourself, is this the way to go? You know, Ambassador talked about civility, talked about, you know, doing things like people who are civilized, but we're yet to see things like that. If there are more suitable ways to enforce the law, if you feel that a responsibility has been given to you. But when you begin to block highway, you know, and begin to use sticks and all manner of, objects, you know, to attack drivers on the roads and all of that. So you could imagine the kind of, you know, responses that you get on the part of the people you are trying to make to observe certain laws. And funny enough, you know, most times you see them either with police officers, or their roadblocks are usually close to where police officers are, you know, are stationed. And, you know, you just wonder if these people could be this close to the Nigerian police, and they could exhibit such a manner of, you know, untoward attitudes and characteristics towards, you know, people with impunity, then it means that it has become a way of life. Now, I also understand that, but when I saw the story, that this is not the first time that these truck drivers have been complaining about a certain individual who is equally a government appointee, you know, and from what I gathered from this story, he is the one in charge of that, you know, group. So which means that the government is aware. They cannot feign ignorance of these things, if not that the drivers decided to come out and take up these actions. I understand the point of Ambassador when he said, of course, when you block the road, you make things difficult for other road users. But there's a popular saying that desperate times calls for desperate measures. Perhaps this is a language that, you know, our government usually, you know, seem to understand.
Why does it look that way? Well, why does it seem that way?
It's like that. Like that's why I said, when you allow abomination to stay too long in a society, it becomes a way of life. Now, if there are punitive measures for characters like this, if we have a system where you trained people that you want to engage, people that you want to bring into the system to interface with members of the public, there is a way you package and organize them. Don't just give them uniforms, because the uniform does not make you the person that you represent, if I may use that word. You know, you see all manner of uniforms that you can hardly even understand what they represent. But I'm sure these people don't even get the needed training before you are pushed to the public. And that is why we are where we are today. You know, the only thing they give to them is the uniform, and they get sticks and clubs and all manner of dangerous. Okay. So for me, I think what has happened, and like I've said before, it is not new. The government cannot feign ignorance of these things, because
they have dissociated themselves from it anyway.
They would,
even from the individual you mentioned.
They would. What I'm saying is they would, but they know these people. They use it to empower them without giving them proper orientation, without giving them proper training. What they just give them is, take this uniform, go and do what you like on the road. So it's a dangerous trend. This should be an eye-opener for the government and people of Imo State, and of course Nigeria, because it's not just narrow, it's not limited to Imo State alone. It is everywhere in this country.
Is it possible for the government to just gather people and just put them out there without proper training and orientation?
It's what it is. It's always say if it's possible, it means we won't have it. It is what it is.
It's okay. Let's get to your thought, Ambassador.
Well, I think this issue of task force is like abnormality versus abnormality, because we have seen the case where task force, you know, road task force implementers, you see them driving one way just to look for those who will drive one way. So I keep wondering, what is the rationale of you breaking down the law because you want to look for those who are trying to break down the law? I see them severally. I don't know if you do also. So I think it's condemnable, it's wrong. But that's the order of the day. Again, most times, most of these truck drivers too, sometimes they don't conduct themselves in a manner that looks very responsible. Now, from experience, there was a time I was driving from IMO State, that same IMO State road, early hours of the morning. The police stopped me in a checking point. And then while they were trying to ask for my papers or thereabout, a big truck was coming. Because of the nature of the road, that truck is supposed to divert to the next, his own lane, and then proceed. But so I told the policeman, I said, officer, see that truck that is coming, oh, can I clear well? He said, no, the truck will not pass through this side. Believe you me, that truck smashed my car and then kept on proceeding. So only for the police to say, reverse your car, reverse your car. So they hopped into my car and then we started chasing the truck driver. Only for us to get him. He said he was not even aware that he jammed anything. That it was his the conductor that called his attention that it's like you jam somebody. And the smell from his mouth was highly alcoholic that early hours of the morning. So imagine if he has killed someone, he will proceed if police are not there. And
might not be aware
and
that
he will tell someone. You that he's not aware. Of the truth, some truck drivers are very reckless. They believe that they own the road. They believe that they are above the law. So sometimes some level of abnormality is needed to curtail their excesses.
From what angle now?
No, from the task
from
force.
Whose side? From the task force?
From the task force, the both sides. So that's why I said it's just that in Nigeria we use the abnormality to curb abnormality. But
when you say abnormality, I would really like you to, tell us what exactly you mean. Some level of abnormality, because when we talk about things that are abnormal, there's so much.
That's what I'm saying.
That we could start thinking of right now.
Between these two set of human beings, the truck drivers have their own recklessness and abnormality. The task force people, like I cited an instance where a task force is going to use one lane, right, comrade, in the name of looking for those who will drive one way.
The traffic, yeah.
It's abnormal. And then in the case where I gave you an instance where a truck...
You're talking about when they're chasing after people who are driving...
They are not even chasing.
Because there's something called immunity in some of these laws.
Who gives them the immunity?
There's something called immunity in some of these laws. That's why sometimes you see some police vehicles and then you say...
No, for police.
Because if they have to get to someone who is breaking the law, maybe driving one way, like you said, and then they are also driving to get to that person, you cannot say it's abnormal. We're talking about the activities and the behavior of some of these truck drivers. Is that not why the training is there for these task force personnel? It is expected that some truck drivers would act the way they act, and that's why these people should be trained to handle them in the right way.
You see, the challenge where in the issue of task force is revenue driven. It's not civility driven. You are getting it? The essence why most of these task force are set up is revenue driven. So most times these revenues are contracted. And then those who are responsible, the contractors of these revenues from government, will want to do anything possible for them to generate the revenue. So we are saying that it's a wrong way of doing things. The truck drivers should learn to conduct themselves. The task force too should also learn to conduct themselves.
What are other things that fall within?
No, well, it's we are looking at the intent and purposes of these task force that that has been set up by some of these government agencies. For me, what he has said, the sole purpose is to generate revenue. And if you want to look at that and put it side by side with the conduct of the drivers on the road, you tend to see that it's a complete far cry. Now, from the best of my knowledge, I know that those task force members are not interested in the conduct of the truck drivers on the road. That is not their brief. Their brief is to ensure that they generate as much money as they can. And that is why you saw when they were complaining, the truck drivers, that at every given point, these people made sure by all means to extort and exploit them by making sure that they pay money and give to them. Some of them have POS machines and all of that. Yeah. And if the governor in their refutal, you are trying to say that they are, lay down there are ways that you can make payment if you want to pay this revenue and levies and all of that at a designated account. But you still see these people collect money on the road. And when you begin to have such transaction at the middle of the road, it spark off every manner of unprofessionalism. And I won't be surprised, because like I've said earlier on, when you put a gun in the hands of somebody that doesn't have training, I'm just using gun now because of the lack of the choice of words to use, that gun becomes not just a danger to members of the society, even the person handling that gun, because that person does not have the requisite training and discipline to shoulder such responsibility. But above all, like I've said before, government across board should not see task force as a means of empowerment, because if that is the case, simply means that I have empowered you, go into the road and do what you like, and you will get this kind of backlash. So, for me, if the intent and purposes of those task force on the road is to regulate the conduct of truck drivers, it will be fine and good. And there has to be a well-organized, packaged, coordinated system to run such activity. But when you begin to put I don't want to call them miscreants or touts, but if you see them on the road, you understand some of them are not properly dressed, Some of them smoke drugs even right on the road. So you could imagine how such people, would manifest, their characteristics, especially when it has to do with collecting of money. So by and large, the governments were the ones that has given them such authority. They should ensure that a proper way of discipline, a proper way of training, and they shouldn't see task force as a way of empowerment. They should build up factories, engage these people properly so that they don't become a nuisance to the society and a nuisance to themselves.
All right,